In this week's video fishing forecast for New England, we have chopper blues in the Canal, big tog in Buzzards Bay and the East Bay, striped bass in the Rhode Island surf, some really big triggerfish in Long Island Sound, and much, much more. Let's check it out.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
Hey there, Toby Lapinski for the New England edition of the Fisherman magazine with this week's web video fishing forecast for New England. Let's see, this week I was on the road actually. Tuesday, was out doing some photo work, excuse me, with the guys from Tsunami, and we started things off up at the Cape Cod Canal. It was a bit of a slow bite to begin with. We arrived a little late in the morning just in order to get everybody together. We weren't able to hit the daybreak bite, which apparently had some bass on top. So we made a couple of moves, bounced around a little bit, hit a few spots, and we eventually ended up down near the east end of the canal. And we got down there, and guys were into some big bluefish, had some decent striped bass. It took me a little while to get the hang of things, as the canal is not my forte, but nonetheless jigging is. So eventually I figured it out, was able to get in on the bite. I had a handful of teen bluefish to maybe 13 pounds, 12 pounds, somewhere right in that range. Got a nice bass about 28 inches or so. The trick for us was basically bomb it out as far as you possibly could, let it drop down to the bottom, engage, and at least for me anyway, I was just letting it swing. And the bluefish were hammering it. The guys down below me were doing the, the canal gorilla jigging, heaving back. I don't know, my back and my shoulder can't handle that, so I was doing the swing. Eventually ended up sacrificing a couple of Tsunami heavy swim shads, as well as a couple of Savage Gear sand eels to the cause, but nonetheless put some fish on the shore, got some really cool photos, but weren't done yet. From there, made a move, a bit of a move. Went down to Watch Hill. With this wind and the surf, we knew it was going to look pretty cool down there, even if there wasn't going to be much fish, but we knew we'd have some cool conditions for photos. When we got there, of course, the surf was up. I mean, at times when we first arrived, I'd have to guess there was 10, 12 footers easily rolling out on the reef. Fortunately, not quite that bad up against shore, but still some pretty good seas. Moved out to the front and was able to get into a few bass right out the gate. Nothing huge, again, small schoolies on bucktail jigs, worked tight in the whitewater, then made my way around the point, had a couple of more hits on topwater as well as on the jigs. All in all, pretty good outing, hitting the canal, hitting Rhodey. Gonna have a little bit more on the Rhodey surf in just a minute, but heading back up north. Captain Jason Colby of Little Sister Charters. He's been doing really good on the big blackfish lately, fishing, of course, out of Westport, Massachusetts for the rest of the season. Of course, with this wind, he's just been staying tight to shore on the rock piles that he's gotten there. He's been doing really well, again, on the big blackfish, but he's been also adding some bluefish, some sea bass when the season was open, cod, and even some striped bass, really depending on what the mood is of the fishers on the boat for the day. And speaking of the blackfish, Jason's got a really good article coming out next week. Next week is the October monthly issue, the print issue of the Fisherman magazine. It goes out this Sunday night, heading out to newsstands, of course heading out to your mailbox, and of course available at thefisherman.com. We've got way more than just Jason's article, but that is a real timely and excellent piece, so be sure to check it out. I will remind you next week, once it's out, with a little bit more info on what you can find in the October issue of the Fisherman. All right, easing down the coast. Next up, we've got TJ Kopecki with some info for us on bottom fishing in the East Bay. Take it away, TJ.
Thanks, Toby. Hey guys, nice report again. Got a quick report from the East Bay area. As we all know, the wind's been tough out there to fish. I get out this weekend on Sunday. I got blown around probably just like any other boater that was out there. My trip back into the dock took us almost 2 hours when it normally takes me about 40 minutes. So it was tough. The fishing was tough too. We did some ground fishing. We caught a bunch of sea bass, no keepers. We did catch a couple of fluke, no keepers. We were eating some crabs, looking for some tautog, and I just couldn't get the boat to set up right on a bridge piling, and I didn't get any of those, but I did stop in at Lucky Bait in Warren, and I talked to Manny, and as fast as he gets those crabs in, is as fast as they're selling them. So he's pretty much telling you, get in there, get them quick. If you're gonna do any fishing this weekend coming up. I I did fish the mouth of Bristol Harbor also. That's where I pretty much got sheltered, and I did see some albies come up. So we started casting to those albies, and didn't connect with those either. But they were up quick and they were down quick, and I didn't see them again. But that just goes to show that those albies are moving inside of the bay, all around Hog Island and on Bristol Point there underneath the Mount Hope Bridge. So we'll have to see what's happening on the upcoming weekends. The winds are supposed to stay down, so if you can get out there, get some fishing done.
Thanks a lot, TJ. You know, I've been hearing of some really good bottom fishing in Buzzards Bay, Newport, Narragansett Bay, like you said, like I just mentioned a minute ago. Captain Jason Colby's been hitting them. Because of this, though, I'm kind of surprised we didn't have any changes to the Coastal Kayak Clash leaderboard right now. Very surprising, I must say. For instance, if you need to add a TOG to your score, if you're looking to upgrade that whole stretch that I just talked about right there, Buzzards Bay, Newport, up into Narragansett Bay might just be the perfect area to hit this weekend. You could tuck out of the way of the wind in some of the spots. I've heard the wind's even supposed to die down a bit. And even better, the season's open, of course, for blackfish. It's open in Massachusetts and Rhode Island through the end of the year. Those of us down where I live here in Connecticut got to wait until October 10th for the season to open back up on the blackfish, but there's more species. We've got 8 different divisions in the Coastal Kayak Clash. We got hardtails, which includes false albacore and bonito. We got sea bass, porgy, sea robin, weak fish, a little bit of everything. So if you want to find out more details, if you want to register for the Coastal Kayak Clash, check out the leaderboard, what have you, head on over right now to thefisherman.com and get all of the details right there. And next up, we got another video update, this time around from David Bocaz as he hit the South County Surf this week.
Thank you, Toby. Coming at you from the middle of the afternoon today. Came on down last night, Saturday. Water was right at 62 degrees according to the website, and the air temperature right around 38 degrees. And I've been watching the weather and the tide all week long. I'm telling you that north wind almost kept me home. And sure enough, these cold nights get my blood pumping, Toby. And I couldn't stay. I couldn't stay at the house. I says, it's the fall time. I gotta be fishing. So I make the trip down, pack up my gear, paddle where I gotta go in my kayak, and I find the guys that I fish with all fall long every year. You know, it's a magical time of year, Toby. A lot of fun to be had in the fall, and rest assured, I don't see these guys all year long, and when the fall run starts, I know where they're gonna be. Sure enough, there's Pete, there's Justin, there's this other guy, I can't think of his name right now. Anyway, so north wind almost kept me home. I'm looking at the weather, and I said, north wind 5 miles an hour. What wind? I said, that's got to be worth checking out anyway. And I'm walking up, and Pete's on 42-inch fish, big fatty, big butterball. So I'm feeling good, right? And Toby, I kid you not, for 6 hours, it was a fish every cast, it seemed like. Of course it wasn't, but all big guys. I think the smallest fish was 27 inches. All slot and above. The majority of that was above slot. So it was a really good night. Glad I made the trip. It's a little windier, you can probably hear right now, a little windier than I like, so I'm not going to be sticking around for the next tide. But the fall run is on here in Rhode Island. Check it out. Back to you, Toby.
Thanks a lot, Dave. You know, a couple friends of mine were down at Watch Hill over the weekend, working the late tide Saturday night into Sunday morning. and they reported doing pretty well. Surprisingly, they got into a bunch of bluefish, some striped bass, nothing huge. You know, the striped bass were to that 28, 30, 32, 34-inch class, but what they did say is they were doing really well on the Joe Bag Swarter. That produced pretty much the majority of the fish that they had down there. And it's funny, I've been doing really well on the Swarter as well this year. I've got a bunch of fish on it from, you know, some small schoolies you're going to get on just about anything, but a lot of fish from that 15 to 25 pound class. Biggest I've been able to put on it so far this year is a 27. Still trying to break 30 on that plug. I'm sure it's going to come very soon, but while the lure, you know, a lot of plugs nowadays, they don't come with that good of hardware. The Swarter does. Joe fishes. He knows what needs to be on there. But as you can see in the picture here, I modify it a little bit, as I do with all of my plastics. I run just a single treble on the belly and a dressed flag on the back. So in this case with the Swarter, I got Mustad 5X 3/0 treble on the belly, and in this case it was just happened to be a feather tail on the back, bucktail, what have you. Whatever you've got will work. But I really like that single treble on the belly. As I've talked about before, articles, it gives you not only easier on the fish, you just have that one hook, but when you land them, it's like a handle. You just grab hold, unhook them, you're good to go. So give it a look, and definitely highly recommend the Swarter from Joe. And then last up on the fishing side of things this week, bottom fishing in Long Island Sound remains very good despite the wind. Now you might say there's not much wind here. I was able to tuck out. I'm sitting behind a tree. If I was on the other side of these trees, it is ripping still today. But Greg's been tucking out of the wind wherever he can. That's been the story from a lot of the boaters, is get out of the wind and you can find fish. And of course, Captain Greg's doing that, putting his clients onto some limits of really big black sea bass, some really big porgies, and even a surprise, steady, consistent bite of triggerfish in the mix, just adding to the total variety. Now, unfortunately, the wind did mess up things a little bit for Greg. He said he lost both of his night bass trips last week, but he's going to try to schedule a couple more. He always does those based on the moons, based around either the new or the full moon, and they head out to fish just the right time of that tide. So stay tuned here, stay tuned to blackhawksportfishing.com, and of course the fishing reports every week, as we will have them announced there. All right, well, there you have it for the week. Now, remember, if I was unable to cover your area of interest, you can always head on over to thefisherman.com for the most complete list of fishing reports from New England through the Mid-Atlantic.
Steigercraft boats, built by people who fish our waters. Serious anglers choose Steigercraft for their 40 years of boat building experience right here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Visit steigercraft.com for a dealer near you.